morning, everyone. Boo Boo Bodacious. Hope you're doing well. Good morning, everyone. Indeed. Oh, let me just make sure I'm getting that up. Yeah. Assalamu alaikum, Muslim Bitcoiner. Hope you're doing well. We got a B for victory. Good morning, Bitcoiners. Indeed. Good morning. Where do I set? Bomatatus. Good morning, everyone. Indeed. And we got a West Coast Boots. What's up, West Coast Boots? Good morning, Bitcoiners. Hope you're doing well, West Coast Boots. Good morning, Justin. You're going to like our Moscow time today. It's pretty good. Now you can see there's considerable amount of sun coming in the room, so the sun is up. We're good. Bitcoin running. All that's left for us to do is have a coffee and talk about what's new. All right. So we got a hi, sir. We got a good morning. We got a good morning from Switzerland. We love Switzerland. We're going to Switzerland. I'm going to go visit Switzerland this autumn. Can't wait. Lugano. Going to be fun. So now I know what you're all looking for. P-Man Van included, right? We're looking for some Moscow time. We're looking for Moscow time, the fakest news we can find for the day. What do we got? Well, the Mail Online says that 16.5 million Americans are at risk of a stroke from exercising too hard. Too hard. Don't do it, guys. Don't exercise too hard. 16.5 million Americans are going to die from exercising too hard. It might be true. I have heard of people going too hard. This one's great. This is from the New York Times. There's a lot of stuff going on with Hunter and what's happening with the Bidens. We're going to talk about that more. But the New York Times article, opinion, the real lesson from the Hunter Biden saga, right? So that's the headline. You open it up and see what the article says. Well, the real meaning, so they didn't get into the headline, but you'd think, maybe the real lesson from the Hunter Biden scandal is, maybe crackhead sons shouldn't be given business authority for presidential candidates. And who knows if that's a good idea. It looks like it's not. That should be one of the lessons. But Nick Kristof, once you read the article, you find out what the real meaning is. He says the real meaning of the Hunter Biden saga, as I see it, isn't about presidential corruption. No. It's about how widespread addiction is, guys. It's an addiction thing. And how about a determined parent with unconditional love can sometimes reel a child back. And it gives everyone hope, guys, right? That gives everyone hope. That's the actual headline. I got to read it again without any of the emotion. The real meaning of the Hunter Biden saga, as I see it, isn't about presidential corruption, but is about widespread addiction and is about a determined parent with unconditional love that sometimes reel a child back. That can give others hope. It's great. It also turns out that Hunter this is another headline, right? This is another headline that Hunter Biden deducted. So this is what we know, that he deducted payments to prostitutes, sex club from his taxes, right? So that's the real lesson, is addiction, right? Now, speaking of addiction, I gotta just tell you this, I'm not kidding, right? So there was a rugby game in Canada this weekend. Remember, I told you my favorite sports are now the trans sports. They're the only ones I watch. I would never, ever have sought out a highlight of, a female hockey game or a female rugby game. But it turns out they let a trans woman play in rugby in Canada. Unfortunately, there were no highlights, but I was looking for them. It's the first time I've ever looked for a headline or a video highlight of a female sport, maybe in my life. But it turns out that so you got to see this woman, like a bit of a receding hairline, real short hair, right? Big. So she managed to put 3 players in the hospital in the game in the one match. And I wish I could have seen some of these hits, but I'm kidding. I'm not kidding. This is the only reason I would ever watch this sport is to see these hits. So finally, women's sports getting interesting. So let's keep it going. Let's keep it going. Now, speaking of health and sports, everybody talking about RFK's video this weekend. And remember what we said here, right? That we were already surprised when we saw RFK in person, and you realize in what good shape he is. So I've mentioned that a few times here, right? Now, everyone this weekend saw that he's in really good shape, right? Which is what I was saying, right? Really, really good shape. And so here's the funniest part of it, though. This is the simulation winking at me. Do you know that in the whole world, right, I know one fitness coach. I know one. I don't know any other professional fitness guy, right? I know one. And this fitness guy was the internal fitness guy at Kraken, right? So and I used to work at Kraken, right? So at Kraken, you have access to, health benefits and all that kind of stuff. And so I tailored my own workout regime, which is real simple, right? I do not more than 30 minutes a day. I do some deadlifts. I do a bit of bench press, some curls. Much like how we do this show, my point is to make it replicatable every day. So a little bit like the 16.5 million people that might be exercising too hard and it might kill them. They might get a stroke from exercising too hard. Indeed, I tried to set up an exercise regime that I could repeat every day that wouldn't lead to injury, that wasn't too much of a burden for me. That I wouldn't dread, and it sort of has really worked, right? It's something I've incorporated in my life since COVID, and I rarely miss a day. As I said, I get it done real quick. And so to go back to the simulation winking, the one coach I know in the world, right, for Kraken, he helped sort of verify my idea for my workout regime and all of those things. Well, that was the workout coach that RFK was lifting weights with. So of all, and here's the fun thing, right? So Cernovich comes out. Cernovich hadn't really jumped on board yet with RFK, right? He was sort of wavering, not quite in the RFK gang. I heard him even say, well, what was RFK doing all those Trump years, right? What was he doing? Probably doing shit lib stuff, which is what Cernovich calls anything that is of that variety, right? Someone corrected him in that thread. So already he didn't go further with his suspicions about this stuff. What happened was the person came in and said he's been doing all this stuff with the vaccines. He set himself up to be the biggest vaccine critic before COVID even hit. So he had been doing a lot of stuff. So Cernovich comes and says, if this video purportedly of RFK Jr. is authentic, then he must have our support. No one lifting shirtless and sun with jeans tuned up on 1 second. Just a second. Sorry, guys. I got kids coming through the room. All right. So the one workout guy I know, right? The one person I know ends up being this guy. So Cernovich ends up doing this note, right? If this video purportedly of RFK Jr. is authentic, then he must have our support. No one lifting shirtless and jeans tuned up on testosterone replacement treatment would ever betray this great country. So he ends up getting the incredible Cernovich backing, which is super valuable, right? There probably isn't a more valuable endorsement in that circle of folks than Cernovich's. So Cernovich comes in, but that he even asked if it was authentic. And sitting in my chair, I know one workout guy on planet Earth, and it's this guy. So this guy is sort of the workout guy for a lot of Bitcoiners. It isn't just me. A lot of people in the industry know him honestly one of the sweetest, nicest people you'll ever meet in your life. Like one of those people who is that generous. Like he just wants everyone to be in as good shape as he is, and really comes out there. So it was just really funny for me, right? How many, like I said, I'm not a health nut as far as working out and all that. I love it. But I don't go to the gym and do all these things I go to the gym every day, but it's at the farm here. It's my own gym in Barbados. I'm usually alone there. So it's it's just hilarious, right? To me, even that there is this sort of debate about whether it's authentic, and it's the one gym guy I know. That's it. I know one guy, Ryan. So anyway, great news. And of course, there's been a ton of reaction now since RFK came out and did that. He even comes out and says RFK now, because it went so viral, because everyone was talking about it this weekend, right? So he says, as president, I will restore America as the global example of health and well-being, not through pills or syringes, but through character and self-discipline. And I will continue to walk the walk and lead by example. Americans gained on average 29 pounds during COVID lockdowns. I will help turn this around by encouraging our citizens to exercise, eat well, and fortify their immune systems by removing harmful chemicals from our food. Conversely, we must never allow ourselves to succumb to fear. Fear disables both the immune system and the capacity for critical thought, which is key to survival of democracy. Key to the survival of democracy. We will restore our health as we reunite our communities and rebuild our nation. Indeed, right? And so he says, I'm going to start, he says to everyone, so start doing your morning calisthenics, get yourself in shape for a Kennedy presidency. And then he also jumps in with the Elon Musk and Zuckerberg Octagon challenge. And then he even has a video where he was doing push-ups in the same workout. If you remember, Biden used to always challenge people to, I can do push-ups, and I will say this about Biden, right? He is in much better physical shape than Trump. And that was always something he was a better example of. Like he wasn't an obese person. He is sort of a good example about health and things like that. But not quite all up there, right? He's missing some gears as far as health goes. So that Kennedy actually even did the push-ups and showed that he was in such good shape, I think is actually more important than people realize, right? I saw so many people this weekend on Twitter and elsewhere say, wow, I'm a registered Republican, but anyone who's in that kind of shape, I'm voting for them. And sort of lots of people picking up on that. And Nassim Taleb, of course, right? Broken brain Taleb. So he comes in and says, so apparently steroids are okay, but not polio vaccines. Same incompatibility as with libertarian Putinism. What? Remember what a sign of cognitive dissonance is. We talk about it all the time. It's word salad, right? When you say such stupid things that no one can make sense of, that's what's happening. So the same incompatibility. So steroids. So first of all, the steroids that Taleb says here, complete hallucination, right? There's no steroid. Why does it have to be steroids? It says many are saying this is steroids. I don't think that it is. But he says, but so what if it is? We should want safe steroids and drugs that let you stay jacked at 70 years old, he says. And now what a lot of people are convinced of is that he's simply on testosterone replacement treatment, which a lot of people are, and it doesn't look bad, but please don't. I'm not a doctor. I'm not here to prescribe medicine. I'll say, get your son, exercise. Don't know about the testosterone stuff, but everybody swears by it. And I would say I would be not against it as I get older for sure. And am sort of in the back of my mind planning on taking testosterone replacement as I get older and require it. But I do not require it now because we eat very well and we're in great shape. So Taleb goes on, granted, Balaji has discernment issues. The question is whether Bitcoin is a magnet for incoherent people, if the delirium is a product of zero interest rates or something else. So again, remember what I said about cognitive dissonance. If it sounds like gibberish, like the person is having a stroke while they're saying it, right? steroids and polio vaccines, incompatibility, libertarian Putinism. So the libertarians that like Putin, right, are who he's comparing RFK and his jacked muscles to. So there you go. Saifedean jumped in on this and just said, look, Tlaib has been a stupid charlatan forever. I exposed it, and that's all there is to it. He's the first person to have called him out on it, right? So there you go. Fitness, health. Now, what I think is so important about this health debate and putting this front and center is you're finally starting to see people pick up on just how important diet and just plain exercise, like health, just like Bitcoin, is not a incredible scientific problem. Now, some people, I understand it's not as easy, right? We all have different addictions. I get it that some people can just eat and eat and eat and eat. And again, we are just thankful that we don't have that personal problem, and that we can get as much satisfaction out of a tiny little bowl of ice cream that some people might require an entire gallon of ice cream to eat to get the same dopamine hit, right? Because that's what it looks like. It does look like there is sort of a difference in the amount of satisfaction some people get from food versus others, and therefore where this sort of hole in people comes from and why they do these things. Now, again, I have nothing but sympathy and empathy and patience for people who struggle with weight and things like that. It's not a simple problem, but that we're starting to get to conversations where we can actually talk about the basic instruments, the health, the food that you have access to, the food that you see, advertising, marketing, all of these other things around it, really come down to what RFK was talking about: character and personality, right? It's hard to deny all these influences. I know, just coming back to North America after being in Barbados for so long as I was, they don't have as much junk food there. Potato chips, just because it's one of those things that you can't really import well, are like $20 a bag. I'm not kidding. Like, $10 US a bag for potato chips, because those things just don't get on the island very easy. And then at the same time, there's no fast food. There's like 2 or 3 Burger Kings on the whole island that are inside of gas stations, but they don't even look appealing. A couple of KFCs, a couple of fried chicken places. Now, I won't say Barbados people are very healthy. There's all kinds of bad food for them. Like they got the really fatty, so fatty's not the right, really like the rotis that just have a lot of seed oils, I think, in the shells and things like that. So, they got a diabetes problem down there is what I'm getting at. But the difference is it's not filled with advertisements, and you're not being submerged in fast food pornography every single day. And the minute I got back to North America, it struck me more this time than it ever has before. The amount of advertisement and delicious things all around you when you just walk through a mall. I live very near the underground city in Montreal, which is a connected series of tunnels that puts about 8 or 9 shopping malls together in an urban environment. And throughout the whole thing are just signs for food. There's like many food courts. Now, I can resist this stuff, no problem. But my wife and I were both saying, like, it is incredible the difference and even the appetite and taste you have for these foods once you're inundated with advertising. We really noticed it this year. So what RFK is saying here, that character and the self-discipline and things like that are really what we need to get ahead of this problem. And so having someone who can lead, it's what I've been talking about as far as the role of the presidency changing from a technocratic leader of an army, and now more to just moral examples, more like royalty, frankly, more like a monarchistic system where the leader has to set an example. And we even saw RFK do a pitch perfect example of that with his abortion talk this week. Now, remember, my personal opinion on abortion is that it's not men should not get involved, right? I trust women to fix this problem and come up with a solution. The only way men have any involvement, as far as I'm concerned, in the question is if someone is getting suppressed and censored, right? But this is an issue I think women will fix on their own, and there's not much we can add to it, right? It entirely relates to women. I just know personally, if I was raped, there would be some things going on in my body to fix it, right? So anyway, that's just me, right? I'm not here to spread any of that. I would never go on any political mission around the subject. I trust women can solve this problem if they have the opportunity to do, which is, not really been the case, because there has been a lot of censorship and suppression around the questions. But RFK, I think if you are going to have an opinion as a man on this and get involved in the debate, he had it perfect, right? He said, I am pro-choice, but that every one of these things is a travesty. You don't want anyone out there promoting this stuff, right? So I think he did it again just perfectly. And that's the kind of moral leadership that the presidency looks like it's turning into, right? Looks like it's turning into. And it is one of these Newtonian equal opposite reactions, right? I think the appetite to have a president like this, go back and remember what Jimmy Carter built his whole campaign on, right? Because people had been so, agreed. It's a thought experiment here. So the amount due to rape is an extreme. Agreed. I just mean it as a thought experiment, right? I'm not really arguing for that. Agreed. It's a complete outlier. There you go. That's just how I feel, right? So it's more just that there's no winning like way a man can participate in the debate. And I do trust that women are going to get the right answer, right? Like I think if they're given the right opportunity, they have never been given the right opportunity on this. There's always men involved in the debate, and it gets really complicated. I agree 100% with what you're saying, SAS Finance. I mean it only if I was to give my personal opinion about that one subject and really embody it in my own self. That's where I'm at, right? That's where I'm at. Just an empathetic exercise of putting yourself in someone else's shoes. That's all I mean, right? So as much as I am 100% morally against all of it, right? 100% morally against all of it. But that I don't want to push that political opinion. And again, I trust women can figure this out without any involvement from men. That's all I mean, right? It's the best solution, I think, right? It's the cleanest, neatest solution. Again, for me, my only role would be if one group was getting unfairly targeted or suppressed or censored, then I think men have a role to play as far as just making sure the battlefield is not tilted, right? That's about it, right? After that, it ain't up to us. Anyway, don't want to get too sidetracked with that. I just meant it as a thought experiment, and I meant it as this changing role of the presidency and how Jimmy Carter, for example, right? If it wasn't for the Watergate psyop and the disgust and revulsion that it cultivated within American people for dishonest politicians at the time, what they were saying, Nixon. We know now that the whole thing was fake news, just like the Russia collusion scandal. Watergate, 100% fake news, nothing real about it. It was a total inside job, right? The appetite Americans had for someone like Jimmy Carter after Nixon was simply because they wanted, and if you don't know about Jimmy Carter, right, a really big Christian, a really humble, simple fella, absolutely terrible president, but the appetite for him came as a Newtonian physics thing, equal and opposite reactions to what had happened with Nixon and Watergate and all that stuff. So when we look at the corruption going on with the Biden administration now, you can start to see why someone like RFK is going to be and is so appealing, right? You've got someone who's already interested in leading by example, by doing what princes, right? That's why we called the show a couple days ago Two Princes, right? So you got Hunter Biden, who's a prince and is just running his princely racket, and then you've got Kennedy, who is a prince, right? He's from a royal American family. They are indeed a type of royalty. And that's the benefit of royalty, is that their morality ought to be better. That's why the system in the UK has worked for so long. And that's their focus, right? To be in shape and to be healthy. And I think that's what we need of the president right now. That has always been one of my problems with Trump, right? He's just a little bad example of being in shape. He's gotten in better shape since his last term. Now his mental faculties, spot on. He's still there. Doesn't show any sign of aging mentally or anything like that. And he's a great athlete, right? Let's admit that Donald Trump, as much as he lies about his golf and all that, you ever see him throw a first pitch out in baseball? He had a fastball, man. I've seen him throw a football. Apparently he was a great athlete when he was a kid and all that. So, you know, it's great. So there you go. So we love him, right? Now, what you get with a president like this is this moral high ground, which is what we want around health. And, you know, because he's already coming out with his, I think, strong points about vaccine tactics, right? So are the anti-vaccine talking points that have been downloaded to the NPCs to attack him with, oh, the anti-vaxxer, the conspiracy theorist. So I've already said his defense against conspiracy theory, the larger title, he will be immune to it, right? He can continue to be immune to it if he just says, look, my dad was killed, my dad's killer was killed, my uncle was killed, my uncle's killer was killed, my uncle's killer's killer was killed. I had some questions, right? Does that make me a conspiracy theorist? So I think he can neutralize that one. The anti-vax one, I think he's starting to say, I'm not anti-vax. If he even cleans it up, which is where I think he's going to head, he can clean it up one more bit, not even to argue in the frame of being pro-vax or anti-vax or anything like that. All he has to do from here is say, I'm pro-vaccine safety, right? And then you change the frame. And I think that's where he's headed. He's already said, I'm pro-science. I just want the vaccines to not be dangerous and da-da-da-da-da. So I think he's going to get a very powerful talking point. I'm just pro-safety. If he goes pro-safety, he's got the vaccine question cleaned up, right? And he continues to draw more energy, so he's going to be able to get more and more opportunities for this. They're never debating him, by the way, right? That's never going to happen. You know why they're never going to debate him? That side, the pro mRNA vaccines, the pro Pfizer, the pro Operation Warp Speed crowd, the mainstream media that is in lockstep with the pharmaceutical industry, those folks have nothing to lose, right? They're not like trying to be, they're not uneasy about vaccines. They're all in. It's 100%. So why do people who are all in, it's not even a debate to them. Why would they ever debate anything, right? It's not going to happen, right? They just have there is no conflict in some people's minds, right, of this stuff. So if there is no conflict, why would they ever join the debate? They can only lose. They can't go from 100% certainty. Even if it dips to 90, that would be a loss. So they're not going to do it. But the good news is when you look at RFK, who's staking out this moral high ground on the vaccine issue, right? When you see him staking out this moral high ground and finding a way to communicate health to people more accurately, he jumps on to PorkFest. So he's in New Hampshire this weekend, RFK, and he's able to just throw darts at Bill Gates now because he's occupying this moral high ground in health. And he says now that both Hotez and Bill Gates are involved in a pump and dump scheme, which I didn't know about, which is that the same week that Bill Gates, who was overseeing the Event 201 simulation, bought 1.1 million shares of BioNTech vaccine, which later became the Pfizer vaccine. He then sold almost all of that stock, 87%, 2 years later at a $242 million profit. And a week after that, he announced the vaccine didn't work. That's what you call a pump and dump scheme, right? So, we see a lot of pumps and dumps in crypto as Bitcoiners, right? We have a strong moral high ground to see those things and see how bad they are. It's the same thing with the healthcare industry. And in many ways, Kennedy and the healthcare industry is becoming the Bitcoiner, right? It doesn't mean that there aren't reasons why you'd want a vaccine or anything like this. It's the moral part, and he's able to use the pump and dump frame that we all recognize in Bitcoin, but put it onto health and the health business, which is really the better way to understand the health business. Remember, it's not follow the science, it's follow the money. You can't understand shit when you follow the science in science. It doesn't make sense, right? What you can do is follow the money, and you'll understand a lot more about what's going on. And here, he's clearly using a follow the money framework to understand what's going on in health. And it should continue to appeal more people every day. This is remember what World War III really is, right? World War III is really a psychological and economic war. Those are the battlegrounds. That's why the title today is the World War III Soldiers Lament. It's an InfoWar where minds are bent, right? So, but this is what I'm seeing. You look at the healthcare component, you look at what happened this weekend, you look at the Hunter Biden case, right? What we're seeing is the psychological war that is economic and that is psychological actually turning in the last few days, weeks. And it looks like those forces that would be seen as the belligerent enemy, old world, fiat inspired forces are getting routed. This weekend was a complete rout. Let's just look through what's going on, right? It's not just Kennedy and health, which is focusing the money and the corruption of big pharma and putting it all in a package and contrasting it with his, obviously strong physique, right? Couldn't make a more powerful argument for real healthcare in America, real healthcare reform, than by having this fit president. But it's not just it's not just healthcare. It's not just that stuff, right? It goes further to even just the news about this whole Wagner thing and the Russia. You get Oliver Darcy, who came out and said, he said this out loud and in public. Imagine this is where your brain is at, right? Imagine this is where your brain is at, right? He comes out loud and says that everyone this weekend, right? One notable thing about the rapidly evolving international story: since Elon Musk took a sledgehammer to Twitter's verification system, the platform is far less useful during breaking news events, and so people are depending on traditional newsrooms for verifiable information. And then, of course, Alex Gladstein said, is this a joke? Like, this was the opposite of what most people felt, right? Most people did not turn to mainstream news. The big story on Friday and Saturday, as all this stuff was happening, was that people went to Twitter, they went to the spaces. Now, Mario Nawfal's thing lasted for 24 hours. There was bad takes on it, but that's where people went, right? He had way larger audience than mainstream media. And a lot of people said that was the actual moment at which this whole thing went to shit, right? So, this whole, like, that the media from then on became, or from that moment was clear to more people than ever that it wasn't going to be carrying water as effectively as it once did in shaping narratives around things like what went on in Ukraine. We still don't know, by the way. So we're not here to tell you what happened in Ukraine. Some people say, yeah, good, bad, who knows? PSYOP. We never knew. We told you Saturday, we didn't know. And it's so filled with psyops that it's too difficult to even say what's going on. What we do know, though, bringing it back to the American battlefront for World War III and the psychological and economic frameworks where the battle lines are drawn, a big loss happened this weekend for the fiat manipulators and these folks. And it is in the demasking of the Patriot Front. Did you guys see that? It was the best story of the weekend. It was better in many ways than the RFK muscles and all of this other stuff. So if you didn't see what happened, so first of all, and I'll explain why it's so important on the American battlefront. So remember, World War III is not necessarily a hot war. It is a war to manipulate you and coerce you in different ways, right? Money is involved. Well, he says mainstream media are vampires. I call them drug dealers. They're drug dealers, right? They deal dopamine. So I've been calling them drug dealers for a long time, right? I call them drug dealers. So the drug dealers, one of the important like fentanyl drugs that they deal is racial outrage and the fear of white supremacists and Nazis. Now, remember what the prime hoax in the entire Trump series of hoaxes, right? Russia collusion. People think Russia collusion is the prime hoax. It is not. It is not. It is the largest hoax. The prime hoax, as far as I can tell, is actually Charlottesville, right? The very fine people hoax. Now, it is the most debunked fake news story in the history of fake news. Wall Street Journal will not say the line that, that this is what President Biden said is the reason for which he ran for president because of the Charlottesville hoax. Trump never condemned, said neo-Nazis were very fine people. He went out of his way to say they weren't, right? But you can do an edit, you can make it look bad, and so if you go on Wikipedia, for example, even Wikipedia acknowledges what happened. Even Wikipedia acknowledges what happened, right? So that was the main hoax that was used. The Tiki Torch people, and then the very fine people, the whole production was used to prove that Trump was a white supremacist and to create that narrative in people's head that he was an evil Nazi, right? But what we've seen since with these Patriot Front people, if you go back and watch the Tiki Torch people in January 6th, it looks fake. Now that we know how many fake crews they've hired, and that's what these Patriot Front people are. They wear a mask, they're all in the khakis, they have US flags, they go around, they do all this stuff, and they say, they Heil Hitler and ridiculous things like this, right? But this weekend, this is why it's such an important story. This weekend, you finally had MAGA people that attacked Patriot Front and tried to pull their masks off, and indeed did pull their masks off. What happened when they pulled their masks off? They ran away. They all ran away hiding their face. So people have been talking about it, and here's what folks have been saying, right? Because it really was one of the most amazing things. So first of all, Adam Kinzinger, right, who's got major mental problems. First of all, Kinzinger was, because the video went viral of them taking the masks off and MAGA fighting Patriot Front and all these. They're supposed to be, if you listen to the mainstream media, they're all on the same team. That's why they'll never even talk about this. But Kinzinger comes out and says, these people, all blue checks, are celebrating a seemingly MAGA assault on federal officers. Now, I don't know what it really is, but take a gander at the comments of the patriots who love America. So Cernovich says, January 6th committee member Adam Kinzinger confirms that federal assets embedded themselves into right-wing events in order to agitate for violence and false flag as neo-Nazis. Now, here's the thing, and this is what everyone's pointing out, right? That all of these people, for example, Central Park Karen, or the City Bike Karen, right? They identified her immediately, finding these people who are doing super racist things. The media goes crazy, doxes them, right? So here's what people are saying. Wrap your mind around this shit. The Proud Boys demasked members of a group that have terrorized minorities, waved Nazi flags, spewed homophobia. Everything the left claims to hate. The absolute trifecta of what they stand against. They finally have their Scooby-Doo moment. Their proverbial boogeyman is center stage. We literally have their faces. And what did they do? I haven't seen one mainstream media outlet covering it. No liberal politicians demanding answers. No workplaces, schools, or institutions recognizing these individuals and publicly condemning their actions. MSN had the City Bike woman completely fired from her job, doxxed, and crucified by dinner time. Explain this shit to me like I'm out of my fucking mind or something, right? And other people picking up on that. Benny Johnson, this is the best video on the internet right now. Pro-America Patriot rally ongoing. Feds show up dressed as Nazis. Patriots force feds out of rally. Unmask the feds who panic The Nazis cry, tremble in fear. Cops rush to save feds. And Amuse says, the same feds that parade around as Patriot Front were at the Capitol. This masked fed wearing an earpiece was caught removing a window from the Capitol. When he realized that he was being recorded, he blamed another man. He has not been added to the FBI's most wanted list, arrested, or charged. Amuse also goes on to say, well, I don't condemn violence. It is way past time to unmask the feds terrifying our communities. Patriot Front or Antifa. The fit young men wearing khakis and blast masks need to be identified. Tim Young again says the left and corporate media tell us that we shouldn't tolerate the hate Patriot Front propagates. So I wonder if they'll cover this, right? Of course not, right? Of course not. And now even go back to the way this stuff is framed and the way this stuff is propagated and the way this stuff is marketed to people, right? Clearly designed to manipulate people, clearly designed as a psychological weapon, and really made to make people fearful and angry and all that. But they won't follow up, right? They're not going to follow up. So if you add that, if you take into consideration that the health front, right? It looks like we're going to have real conversations about health. There's even now, this is from Brian Rommel. This is from Interesting Engineering. So if you don't follow Brian Rommel, probably the best guy on AI out there. But he actually grew up on a farm and has all kinds of other interests. And so he's been talking a lot about and this is something Bitcoiners are well aware of, right? The intricate relationship between brain health and gut health and what you eat, and MIT now getting involved. So we're actually getting somewhere when it comes to health, and I think having RFK as a candidate running against big pharma and pro health, pro steak, pro small farming, right? I think all of this will help consolidate that argument, and we should be able to win the battlefront for health in World War III, and it looks like we're getting there. When it comes to the question around psyops, right? The thing with the Patriot Front, a big example of another battlefront being lost. Because once people understand that the Patriot Front thing is possible, you can start seeing how Charlottesville and all these other hoaxes are also manipulated. It's hard for people to see that right now. It's hard for them to look at Charlottesville because they saw the video. Remember, I saw it for myself. There's nothing more deceptive than seeing something for yourself, right? It doesn't work. So we've got major changes when it comes to healthcare. We've got major changes when it comes to psyops and our ability to understand these questions, right? Everything happening right now with Hunter Biden will only add to that, right? We're going to see more and more stuff, more and more people talking about it. But it's not just that, right? We've got more amazing things happening, right? So here, I think, is one of the best examples, and it is our good friends. We're going to talk about Bukele in a second, but this one comes from our good friends in Sweden, right? The only place to never lock down, never bothered with any of this stuff, right? So it turns out now that Sweden is going to dump its climate agenda and scrap all of its green energy targets. What's funny about it, right, is that the rest of the world has been making their energy policies based on Greta's feelings, right? Greta Thunberg's feelings. Like, how does she feel about the energy matrix that powers the Western world, right? Oh, she doesn't like it. Well, the funniest thing is she's Swedish, right? So now even Sweden is saying that we don't really care about how Greta feels about stuff anymore, right? So imagine removing Greta from the framework around energy policy. Pretty good news. But it's not just her leaving, right? We've got Larry Fink this weekend. This comes to us from Jordan Schachtel, right? A Bitcoin 2023 speaker. This is from Axios. BlackRock CEO Larry Fink, ashamed to be part of the ESG political debate. So he's saying he's ashamed. He invented it, by the way. He invented ESG. He put it importantly in one of his investor notes a few years ago as it was a fledgling idea, and then helped lobby the SEC for years to make this happen, but it looks like they're giving up. Jordan Schachtel says, Larry Fink says he will no longer use the term ESG, blames DeSantis for destroying its brand, right? And if you read the article, the Axios article, it says, the world's largest asset manager frames its investment approach as a leading indicator for the market. The backstory, he helped start it, right? And blamed the conservatives being against woke capitalism. And so he said he's against it now. And he said he's ashamed for being involved in it. Look, big chances that it's going to change. Big chances. So there's that. Now, if you combine that with, what happened with Greta, what happened with BlackRock, there's one more. Is Larry Fink turning into a Bitcoin maxi? I think so. I think so. So, and that's the latest from Larry Fink, right? So now add that to another important public policy change, and that goes to El Salvador and our good friend Bukele, who I think has got to have an RFK meeting soon, right? That's going to be great. I can see RFK traveling down to El Salvador in the next few weeks, probably over the summer, and that would be a big help for the campaign. So what's happening now? The Wall Street Journal reports the following, that Guatemalan candidates pledged to imitate El Salvador's crime crackdown. In crime-worried Guatemala, the most popular presidential candidates in Sunday's elections are proposing many of the hardline measures that have been used in neighboring El Salvador. So it looks like the NGO propaganda machine, right? Because that's partly how information laundering has worked for so long, right? You put an idea, you get one of these NGOs, they support it, you quote the NGO, you bring it back to the mainstream media, and you propagate it, right? The experts say, right, we can't solve crime. You need 25 years to solve crime in El Salvador if you start today. What did Bukele do? Well, he went with a different plan, right? The NGO plan was 25 years of education, parent support, programs for broken homes, programs to get violent kids off the street, all of this stuff, right? What did Bukele do? What was his strategy? If you tattoo gang numbers on your face, you're going to jail. It wasn't rocket science, right? And that's what drives so many of these NGOs so crazy about Bukele's success with fighting crime down there is it was too easy, right? But that's where things are headed, right? This psychological warfare where energy is unsolvable, global warming, what does Greta think? Crime, NGOs say so hard, can't do. Health, oh my God, who can be healthy? And of course, media behind all of it, pushing people into these directions and into these kill boxes are how we got ourselves into the situation we're in, right? No good. So the good news is the battlefronts of World War III, be they health, be they economic, be they psychological, be they energy, right? And all the politics around energy. It looks like the forces that would resist Bitcoin's momentum in all of these fields are capitulating, because Bitcoin indeed brings momentum to every single one of these issues, right? Health, we're ahead of RFK. RFK's there with a Bitcoiner. He is there with the Bitcoin personal trainer, the only one I know in the world. I know one personal trainer, him. And from there you can see RFK, by the way, as well, changing his tune on nuclear energy, saying the following, that if it becomes economically viable, he's for it, right? Well, Bitcoin is what makes nuclear energy economically viable. So now we got to prove it, but I think we can, and we will. Energy systems, crime, all of this stuff looks like the Bitcoin momentum pushing forward, and the people who would oppose Bitcoin's momentum and the things it's conjuring and bringing out in the world right now and perpetuating, doesn't look like they're going to be able to put up a fight much longer. So if we are in a battle, a psychological and economic war, the system that can perpetuate the future more vividly and accurately is the one that will win. And it looks like Bitcoin's capacity to share and extrapolate, to project a very vivid view of the future of healthy people, full of energy, full of cheap energy, looks like our opposition, let's say, in the war, the belligerents against us, losing a lot of steam. So that's what I got for today. Let's see what we got in the comments here. Let's see what we got in the comments here. Well, a lot coming in. Whoa. I didn't realize it was this long. All right. Where are we? Okay. When I was a kid in the 60s, everyone I knew was obsessed with getting the presidential fitness. Yeah, well, I think it's going to come back. I think it's going to come back. Yeah, I think that would be a great. I mean, if he just brings that, that would be great. If men are involved, then yeah, I mean that's a detail. I mean, you can pay for that stuff on your own, you know. Indeed, let's destroy and humiliate the like button. We love it. We love it. I'm not anti-abortion, but I'm going to be honest. I don't trust women to sort it out, nor do I think men should. No, I don't think it's none of our business. It just, look, it's just the cleanest way. I just want everyone to be happy. Like I don't want to keep fighting about this. And I feel like there's nothing we can add to it. What can I say to add to the debate? Nothing. There's nothing I can say, right? I can just say personally what I would do in the extreme. So at least I'm showing that I get an extreme case. Are we voting for? Yeah, got to, man. Vote 5 times. Use the Biden help Kennedy $50 on my keychain. Very cool. Very cool, SAS Finance. He sure does. I'm a one-issue candidate. You know, I judge this man too early on. Thanks, Diesel. Anti-vax is a term that's so badly abused today, it's worthless. There have been vaccines turned out to be dangerous in the past. Yeah, there are also ones that have alleviated misery. Yeah, absolutely, Winsome Hoax. You got it totally right. And that's why vaccine safety, what I see RFK pivoting to now, vaccine safety is the right thing. Anti-vax is not really the right frame, right? Vaccine safety is all we need to be talking about. Never debated when the president. Yeah, he did. Well, they cheated Nixon too. Don't forget, right? We can't deny they cheated Nixon. Yeah, me too. I love the use of pump and dump. MK says, "Give the man a like." Indeed, give the man. That's me. A like. Don't forget the private armies fighting in Ukraine. Yeah. Yeah, private armies coming, man. They're a real thing. It's basically just these. Neither do I, SAS Finance. But I don't know. You know, I don't know. Yeah, they don't look safe and effective. They clearly don't look it. But remember, this died suddenly too, not really accurate, right? Manifesting now, obviously apparent a majority of people's bent, as your title shows. Yeah. Fiat did this, right? It's not you, it's USD, guys. That's what I like to say. It's not you, it's USD, right? That's the good breakup way to see it. Broadcast. This is when I was talking about the. Can you believe they said that? Oliver Darcy. This has got to be the worst take. It's got to be the worst take on Russia. There were so many bad takes. That's the worst. The worst take is that everyone got their news from the news, right? Couldn't be worse. I have no idea. Yeah, no, I don't bother. I don't even bother with Ukraine, like finding out what's going on. You can't. A few days later, you can. Let us bend the language back. Health starts with personal behavior. Health is a set of individual choices. It sure is. Yeah. And I think that's where, Michael Crichton taught me that, where healthcare is, he was predicting where healthcare is headed, especially with the genetic stuff. Remember, I've mentioned before, when I was a law student, my dissertation was on gene patenting and all of this stuff. Michael Crichton predicted healthcare would go to exactly that. It would be tailored to the individual. Once we understand that there aren't generic solutions for each individual, that each individual human body responds, reacts, needs different things, that it would really be about getting your own personal profile and then genetically matching treatments to what's predisposed to working. That was his prediction, and I think he's more or less right. So it's a set of individual choices, it's personal behavior for sure, and it'll be personalized behavior recommendations. So doctor going way back to the old ways, which is like, slightly psychologist mixed, and definitely individually oriented. Oh yeah, this is a good one. This is what so here's another line I got from Adam Townsend. This is a way to say what you're saying, SAS Finance, that it's garbage for your brain. So Adam Townsend said this about a fella who was touting those touting news in the Ukraine war, or the coup, or whatever it was. 1 second. Here's what he said. And I believe this. This is absolutely something I believe. Let me get it here. So Adam Townsend, if you don't follow him, I mean, he says some crazy shit. So I don't know if I can fully 100% recommend him, because he gets stuff wrong regularly, but he's still worth it in a lot of ways, right? So here's what he said. And he's talking about one of these influencers in Ukraine, right? So this influencer said, Russia has lost the war. Expect the front lines to collapse in the coming days. So Townsend says the following. His name, you follow him at Adam Scrabble. He says, why do people follow this guy? Why would anyone volunteer themselves to inject their brains with this shit? It's instrumentalized to cognitively impair whoever receives it. Not kidding. It is. And that's true. The psychological war that we're talking about, right, is exactly what Adam just said. It is instrumentalized to cognitively impair whoever receives it. That's what's happening. You get brain damage from listening to mainstream media. You get brain damage, actual brain damage, right? If you're out there reading Metro saying that there's 15, 16 million Americans who are about to die from working out too hard, you are getting bit by bit cognitive impairment. So there you go. In the future, somehow trustworthy information is going to have to condense out of the mass of info swelling around. I suppose people will need to decide who they trust. Hold on, Winsome Hacks. There's a better way to see it. Bitcoin is a P2P network, right? Well, P2P doesn't just mean sending coins to each other. It's also an information model for us to protect ourselves from psyops. I think Bitcoiners have survived this long intact because we're a P2P information network as well. We share information between Bitcoiners and amongst Bitcoiners in order to protect against these psychological attacks. So it's not so much believe every Bitcoiner, it's get your information from Bitcoiners, see what the Bitcoiners are debating about, not relative to Bitcoin, but about the wide world, and you'll be better off. So it's about, ich bin ein Bitcoiner. I am a Bitcoiner. It's almost like we're a country within this fight of our own, right? We are our own country fighting in World War III. and our own nation or whatever. And we're going to be the winning nation, right? We get all kinds of new people. Even RFK, I mean, he might still put himself as an American first over Bitcoin, but he'll be a Bitcoiner before long, fully. So there you go. Remember what was the Carthaginian Phoenician Empire about? It was about money. They didn't even speak the same language, right? Money was a better substrate to make nations than all this other propaganda we've created in our modern nation states. Government programs and all this shit, right? Democracy. No. The money was a better substrate to connect a nation ever. And it was more, it's been more often the basis for nationhood in history than national identity. Way more. So we're the historic norm to run our nation around shared money. And running your nation around shared money helps you create other systems like information filtering and all of that, right? That's what we're doing here. We're literally a bunch of Bitcoiners who get together in the morning to talk about the battle lines of World War III being psychological and economic, and underlining exactly where the war is. This is a war front dispatch, right? And talking about it from the point of view of Bitcoiners' position in the war. We're a nation in this war. Begin to realize that the fate of Bitcoin outcome is all that matters now, because the other alternative is what we have now: Babylonia and dying empire of lies. Yeah, the all lies. Yeah, the all lies, not allies. The all lies. Everything is a psyop. Almost, you'd be closer to right than wrong for believing that, which is shitty. I don't trust anyone anymore. Not even don't. I get things wrong, guys. We're having coffee in the mornings. We're doing our best. You don't have to believe what I say. You don't have to. Don't. I do my best, but I make mistakes, you know. The alternative is catastrophic culture of soul destruction. Indeed. Yeah, we talk about, Trump won't solve this. We love Trump, but he's weak. He is weak. Trump is weak. Sorry, weak. So weak. He's weaker than Biden. Biden's strong. He's weaker than Biden. Unfortunately. Charming, love him. Love Donald Trump. We'll always love him. I'll never stop loving him. Never. But he got to go. He can't be the president. We heard he'd had his chance. It's too late. It's too late. I'm not here for his Woodstock, the election. Now, part of me says he deserves to be the one who gets to punch them back in the face. And I'll always kind of be sympathetic for that, but it's not what I want ideally, right? Ideally, no. Ideally, someone else wins and he can do all that anyway. Bitcoin provides the way out. Yeah. Trust Bitcoin because I trust mathematics. Yeah, that's the best you can do. But remember, if Bitcoin's broken, get out. Remember that. If it breaks, don't trust it. But it's never broken, and I don't think it ever will. But you got to remind yourself about that, right? You got to repeat that to yourself as an exercise. The left will go in. Yeah, that's what I want. You don't want to see that? Come on. A little bit SaaS finance. A little bit. It's worth it. Armed goods paid with fiat. Yeah. We need a new leader of the Democrat Party like ours, just so it becomes actually moderate like it used to be. Yeah, that's definitely true. But I think both parties are there. This is the end of the parties. I think we're gonna get beyond political partisanship. I think when you take their money away, they're not gonna have enough reason to fight. Will not come from the top. Yeah, we all isn't the one ruling anything. The handlers are. Yeah, that's what it looks like to me. Yeah, sock puppet needs to go to the retirement home. America's entered a gray state era, and culture has been bent by the endless empire of lies and fiat fuckery. It sure has. It sure has. Is Larry Fink turning into a Bitcoin maxi? I hope so. Would be useful. Yeah, whoever orange pilled. Yeah. But again, I mean, he just said ESG is bad, right? But it's a start. 5 years SaaS finance. It's this year. Big year coming. Big. I don't even live in. I feel sorry for Americans living under this corrupt government. Yeah, but look, they're the ones who are gonna change the world in the end. So, but it's true. When I'm in the States now. I'm in here a lot. It's way more stressed out here than anywhere else in the world right now. I go through. I mean, Canadians are real dumb and they absorb American media. So the English Canadians are sort of even worse. I guess somehow shit can go uphill too when it comes to Canada. But Quebec didn't get any of it, and I feel like Quebec is similar to a lot of other places in the world. So I definitely feel it when I leave and enter. Not using the term is not the same as not following the agenda. You're right, Daniel. You're right. But I just want to show that it's up for debate and that not everyone is worried about what's her, Greta. If RFK gets the president, do any of you doubt that? Yeah. They're gonna. I think he's already getting sensitive. I think he's become recently much more aware and sensitive about this. Even when I was with him on. At Michael Saylor's house, even then I was sort of worried. I was like, security was vetted pretty well outside, but could have been better. So I was bringing it up with I was just talking with RFK's security guys, like, are you sure? It's just you, but I think he's keying in now that, yeah, I mean, they could kill. Yeah. They'll do it to Trump too, but it'll be, I mean, if that stuff happens, guys, it's going to get real crazy. I've been to El Salvador. They use the. Yeah, that's true, Eddie, for sure. Yeah. But little by little. Once those people see how the people who have been using Bitcoin these few years have done, it'll catch on. Killed over the weekend by gang activities. Wondering how it was. Yeah, I think they're coming to get all of them. It is early days. Yeah, it is early days. And they love Bukele, right? They love him. So we are absolutely in a site. That's where we're at. Mm-hmm. No, that was just a risk. They plan on forking BTC. Let them go for it. Have fun. Knock yourself out, guys. Thinking plan to overthrow the government, use as base of operating to free the. Could be. That would be dark. That would be very dark. Don't want to see that. Because all it does is divide her. Yeah. All right. Almost done here. Private armies were. Yeah, it sure was, MK. Not only that, almost exactly the way it's playing out right now. All right, Trump has a big. He sure does. Okay, I'm gonna have to go through a little quick here. I got some stuff to do. Yeah. That's cool. You've hung out. Yeah, it was a really great time. SaaS Finance, really fun. A lot of Bitcoiners there. So if you didn't know SaaS Finance, I help program the Bitcoin Magazine shows, and you get some pretty good invites when you do that kind of stuff. But even I help book RFK, organize the whole show from a programming point of view. Even I had to beg to get invited, and I had to wait outside for like 45 minutes before I was let in. So there you go. Can I apply? Yeah, sure. Come around, SaaS Finance. I'll be in Europe for Amsterdam in the next a little while. Let me know about it, SAS Finance. Let me know. You can reach me. You can DM me on Twitter. I read my DMs, and you can email me at nolan.bowerly@btcmedia.org. All right, team. That's all I got for today. Peace. Thanks for coming, everyone. And